It is NCE 2019. NCE 2019. May I now invite the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Mr. Timothy Anton, to make his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. I want to recognize the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Timothy Harris, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, other members of the head table, members of Parliament, members of Cabinet, captains of industry, senior government officials, president and students of the CFFBC. I always like to see students in the room when we talk in the economy. So special welcome to young youth and everyone present. The annual National Consultation on the Economy is an important aspect of economic governance in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and by extension, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. At this juncture in the history of the ECCU, economic governance is about building strong institutions and enhancing our capacity as young liberal democracies to achieve strong, sustainable socio-economic growth and deliver shared prosperity. Undoubtedly, a country's or region's status cannot be judged solely by its GDP or per capita income. Michael Green, in his 2015 article, "Why We Shouldn't Judge a Country by Its GDP," referred to the Social Progress Index, which encompasses 3 dimensions. 1, basic human needs, such as food, water, shelter, and safety. 2, foundations of well-being, such as basic education, health, information, and a sustainable environment. And 3, opportunity, such as civil rights, freedom of choice, freedom from discrimination, and access to higher education. And this is a useful framework for us to consider our economy and society. The global and regional outlook. We meet at a time when the global economy has slowed and there is mounting concern about a possible global recession, due in part to the US-China trade war, tensions in the Middle East, and Brexit. Typically, an inverted yield curve is a signal that a recession in the United States is likely within the next 2 years. Of course, I hasten to say these are less than normal or typical times. We'll see. As a consequence, major central banks have lowered interest rates, and in the case of the European Central Bank, has actually resumed quantitative easing in a bid to stimulate economic activity and stave off a recession. For this year and next, global growth is projected at 3.2% and 3.5% respectively. For the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, growth this year is projected at 3.3%, slightly down from the 3.8% recorded last year. And for next year, we currently project growth at around 3.2%. So we're holding our own, notwithstanding the challenges in the global economy. Even as we prioritize investments in the ECCU to spur growth and employment, we ought to be cognizant of opportunities in our region. One such opportunity is Guyana. As we are all aware, Guyana has discovered vast deposits of petroleum. Some of the benefits of these petroleum revenues will begin to flow from as early as next year. Businesses in St. Kitts and Nevis and in the rest of the ECCU ought to consider their possibilities within the framework of the CSME. Acceleration of key reforms. Even as we seek to delay the global recession, we would do well to reflect on the lessons of the last global financial crisis. One of the weaknesses witnessed in many ECCU countries was the inability of governments to implement counter-cyclical fiscal policy to cushion the effect of the recession of the crisis on the population. This situation was due to a multiplicity of factors, including natural disasters, loss of preferential access for sugar and bananas, weak financial management, high debt, and a lack of fiscal buffers. In response, the Monetary Council set a target of 2030 for member countries to achieve a public sector debt to GDP ratio of 60%. The ECCU debt to GDP ratio dropped to 68.1% at the end of last year from 78.2% in 2014. I congratulate St. Kitts and Nevis on being the first independent country in the ECCU to reach this target. Having attained this important milestone, the question then is, what's next? In my humble estimation, the next step for government is to adopt a fiscal responsibility framework, or what I prefer to call a fiscal resilience framework. Why? This framework is not merely about fiscal discipline and financial or fiscal rules, as important as those are. It is more about resilience, the capacity of a country to rebound after a shock or setback. In other words, in the good times, you must save for the bad times, the rainy day, as it were. I am aware that the government has begun exploratory work on this issue, and I therefore urge that this work be completed and the requisite framework enacted. Of necessity, such a framework would include a fiscal watchdog that reports to the Parliament, as is the case in Grenada, and will soon be the case in Jamaica, the Bahamas, and Barbados. I now turn briefly to the matter of the ease of doing business. And much has already been said about this by the President of the Chamber. In 2018, of the 6 countries in the ECCU, we ranked 93rd in the case of St. Lucia, to 147 in the case of Grenada, with St. Kitts at 140. Our aspiration is to see our countries in the ECCU ranked in the top 50 in the world. When this index first started in 2007, our collective ranking was 14. The point is that it is not that we're not doing anything in the ease of doing business area. It is just that the world is moving faster than ourselves. This is a relative ranking. So if you take 2 steps and the world takes 4, you've lost 2 steps. You've lost ground. And that is the issue that we have to wrap our minds around. This improvement will not happen by accident. To that end, I am advised, and we just heard it a while ago confirmed, that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has tasked the Chamber with playing a leading role in this turnaround. I welcome this move and encourage the full cooperation of the relevant state actors. The criticality of the digital economy. Our region is in search of a new development model. All that you see that we're doing now, citizenship by investment program, legal, cannabis, among other things. All we are trying to do is find a way to make a living, a decent, honest living, and to take care of the aspirations, the legitimate aspirations of our people. That's what we're trying to do. In this quest for a new development model, our economies must become digital. We can no longer operate in analog in a digital world. After all, data is the currency of the 21st century. In this regard, I applaud government's recent strides in developing a digital economy strategy, and we'll hear more of that later, and that's an exciting development. One of the pillars of the digital economy is digital finance. In this regard, the ECCB is a global leader with its digital currency pilot. You will hear more about this pilot in the post-lunch session. And I'll have a few exciting announcements to make on this matter on Thursday of this week. Stay tuned. In this era of data and data analytics, evidence-based policy making is imperative for strong economic governance. Indeed, it is often the difference between leaders and laggards, champions and the also-rans. Against this backdrop, I seize this opportunity in the presence of captains of industry and commerce to make a plea for your timely response to surveys conducted by the Central Statistical Office and the Central Bank. We rely on these surveys in our estimation of GDP, balance of payments, business and credit market conditions, and the investment climate. Your low response rates or the provision of inaccurate information is frankly spoken a dereliction of duty and a disservice to your nation and region. And very often that leads to poor decision making by policymakers in both the public and private sectors. But perhaps even worse or equally bad is when development partners, regional and international partners, come to erroneous conclusions about us because we either do not provide data or the data is inaccurate. You know how frustrating it is to pick up a publication from some global or international organization, and when you look for the Eastern Caribbean, you see NA, not available. Folks, we have to tell our story. We have to tell our story. And when we fail to tell that story, somebody is going to write what they want. And very often it will be to our detriment. So I want to say this morning, feedback is a gift. Those of us in business, whether you're in the private sector or the public sector, understand feedback is crucial, without which you cannot meet the needs of your customers. And I make the point that for us today, we have to be in a position, and tourism is our business. That's our largest earner of foreign exchange, to be able to receive feedback and to be able to make timely decisions. Enough said on that. Consistent with the focus on the digital economy, the ECCB is pursuing the use of data analytics as part of its toolkit for providing influential policy advice to member governments and the public. To that end, the bank has made a significant investment in the development of its SAS database, multi-million-dollar investment by our bank, to serve our members and stakeholders. So for example, our commercial banks are now uploading their prudential data into that database, and they can then retrieve their own data series and aggregated data on demand. In other words, they can get it whenever they want it. And Financial Secretary, you'll be pleased to know that we propose to offer a similar service to the Financial Services Regulatory Commission. Stay tuned. In conclusion, therefore, I hope the presentation and discussions today will not only benefit the preparation of the 2020 budget, but will fortify the progress of the Federation in the sphere of economic governance and the quest for shared prosperity. Please accept my very best wishes and full assurance that your central bank stands ready to support you in this important endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor. Just to indicate to you, upon arrival, you'd have observed that in the lobby, which is looking really, really pretty, if I may borrow someone's favorite phrase, it was really beautiful outside there. Please visit the booths outside during the break and be better informed with respect to the presentations that you meet there. But don't get so consumed that you forget the time to come back when we resume. I think we've had some wonderful presentations so far, and if you agree with me in terms of the presentation from the Financial Secretary, from the President of the Chamber, and from the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, please prove me right. I must admit that was really just a warm-up for the next presentation. Now give me your biggest round of applause because he promised me today that the louder the applause, the more reduction we'll see in the corporation tax. So he says if it reaches a certain level above my height, which is not very far to go, then you would have the rewards accordingly. But just to tame it a bit, I want you to, with a nice warm welcome, to do a rendition for us, Miss Natasha Gordon. Natasha.
Good morning. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 shiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Oh yes, I can make it now. The rain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I say I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Here is the rainbow we've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure that you all appreciated that. As a journalist, sometimes they say journalists are paranoid in terms of the things that they look at or things that they see. And they claim that journalists see what others don't see. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But it's interesting, the rendition before the presentation of the Prime Minister, because the presenter said it's going to be a bright, sunshiny day. And given the fact that we've already heard the announcement of double salary, one wonders what brighter day it would be. But we listen to the presentation from the Prime Minister and see if, in fact, there is something special. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been meeting here for many years, many of them in this hotel for this presentation. And I know it is something that we may become complacent about and take for granted. But truly, you deserve to give this country and yourselves, for the extended period of time we've been having these consultations, a round of applause, because there are not many countries that do this. Help me in welcoming our Prime Minister and Minister of Finance to make his feature presentation, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Could we give our Master of Ceremony another round of applause? And to thank him for so ably presiding over today's consultation. I want, of course, to recognize the presence of my cabinet colleague, our Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Sean Richards. Could we give them all a round of applause? The Honorable Vance Amory, the Honorable Lindsey Grant, W. Jean Hamilton, the Honorable Patrice, the Honorable Wendy Phipps. I want to recognize our Attorney General, the Honorable Vincent Byron, our Senator, Mrs. Akila Byron, Nisbet and Mr. Nisbet, the Cabinet Secretary, permanent secretaries and high officials of the government, and the distinguished representatives of the private and civil sector. I want, of course, to commend the leadership at the head table, and in particular to recognize the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the bank with the strongest dollar in the world, Governor Timothy Antoine. I want to recognize our lead person in terms of the government strategy for the digital economy from Deloitte and Touche, Mr. Roger, do I have it right? Hennis, give him a special hand there. And of course, the Chamber representative, Mr. Farron Lawrence, representatives of the media, invitees all. I want, on behalf of the Cabinet, to issue a special and warm welcome for all of you who have turned out this morning to be part of the national consultation on the economy. Perhaps because we have been doing this so regularly, as the chairperson alluded to, we may take this for granted. But close to the chairperson is the governor of the central bank, and he put it in its proper perspective that these consultations are a critical part of the economic governance of a country. Sometimes you hear people talk about good governance, as if it's one thing. And they forget some of the most basic elements of the good governance agenda. We go to the people. We hear from the people. We learn from them, because it is from the people that the government gets its mandate. And it's the people to we owe a duty. And that is why I want to commend you, our astute governor, for making that fundamental point. Perhaps it's the biggest point that you have made, although you made many. Because we have to factor in and appreciate really what it is we are doing. We subject our views to scrutiny. We hear the views contrary to them. And we then find a way of making judgment that best advances the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. And this is what the mandate as a government has been. And this is why we continue to go through the length and breadth of St. Kitts and Nevis over the last 4 years, hearing what are the priorities of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. When we do that, we know we are fulfilling our good governance agenda. So I want to thank the governor for reminding even me about that critically important point. What it is we set out to do way back in 2015, simply one thing: rebuild St. Kitts and Nevis as an economy, but more than an economy, as a society where people are actualizing or at least attempting to do so, where people with their dreams can come together and to see and have the hope and the faith that through their own efforts, ingenuity, and industry, the realization of their dream is better than a possibility, but a probability to which they can affix a number. The challenge we face today is how we keep the economy that we inherited strong so that it can continue to deliver a better future for all the citizens and residents of our beloved Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Economic strength is not an end in itself. It is a means to sustain an excellent quality of life for all of our people. It is the fundamental means by which we provide hope and build a stronger, better, and safer future for all the citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. A strong economy means we can create more jobs, especially for our young people, some of whom are here. Let's again give a special hand of welcome to our future leaders who are here from our schools and our CFBC. An important statistics regarding the health of the economy really relates to the employment numbers. And the Social Security records would reflect that the largest number of employed persons and the largest number of jobs to have occurred in this country happened under the watch of a team unity administration. And the records will show that from January to June 2019, 25,975 jobs were taken up in St. Kitts and Nevis by citizens and residents. This is an important data. Put your hands together for all those who are contributing to the economic life. The largest number of an employed person revealed itself over the last 4+ years. The highest level of wages paid in the economy occurred over the last 4+ years. It is a record of our success in managing the economy and giving our people an opportunity to participate. Lest we take these things for granted. They are outward signs of the success of the fiscal and economic management of our beautiful country. A strong economy means for us that we can invest in rebuilding our infrastructure, some of which had gone into dilapidation by the time we came to office on the 22nd of February 2015. A strong economy means that we can invest in rebuilding our roads and make them safer, better connecting the islands, and of course, a strong economy means we can build out the largest constructions of homes in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis. The massive and comprehensive St. Kitts island-wide main road resurfacing program, which is, for the record, the first of its kinds in the mid-1990s. Between 93 and 95, we had somewhat of a resurfacing Island Main Road program. Count 6 years, because we're now 2019. We are having that circle repeated by a team unity administration. And everyone who comes to St. Kitts and Nevis can see and feel the difference in the quality of our infrastructure. And they hail the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis for its forward thrust in the socio-economic life of St. Kitts and Nevis. Put your hands together for our Minister of Public Infrastructure, the Honorable Ian Patches Liebert. We see happening now the second cruise pair, which was promised long before the 22nd of February 2015, but is being delivered now. And come October, we would have the second cruise pair delivered to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, reflecting that this administration is succeeding where others have failed. A strong economy means that we have the resources to improve our education and our health system. That is why for 2019, our government has invested millions in tertiary education. And when the governor of the Central Bank spoke of a broader composite index to evaluate the performance of the economy, he spoke to things not just the GDP. And for the record, we have the second highest per capita GDP among CARICOM countries. This is significant because 40 years ago, almost all other countries were advanced ahead of St. Kitts and Nevis. But now we are ahead of each one of them in the OECS and second only to Bahamas in the CARICOM region. That is an achievement of which you must be proud. We have been investing this year as we speak. Mrs. Rochester, our Chief Personnel Officer, has provided the statistics which reveal that we have at least 300 of our citizens in various universities around the world, being supported by this Team Unity administration. We are walking and talking, doing what we say we will do. That has been the spectacular record. Invested in education and investing really in the way forward. And looking to the future, we certainly look forward to making St. Kitts and Nevis a leader in healthcare throughout the region. Indeed, there are many things of which we can be proud. None can gainsay that we have one of the best primary healthcare sectors in the entire world, a model. They may argue with respect to secondary healthcare and tertiary healthcare. Let me say we are getting there. It is our plan, very shortly, of course, to introduce a comprehensive health insurance program for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So whether you're rich or you're poor, whether you need treatment inland or overseas, some financial support will be there for every citizen and resident in St. Kitts and Nevis. And when we deliver on that, we will be the first country in the OECS and perhaps within CARICOM to have provided this kind of health delivery to the people of their country. These then are some of the historic legacies which we as citizens and residents must be sure to promote and defend. And we must be careful never to reverse these gains. There is a story in the Bible, and the governor is a Christian, or so he professes. He would help me. About the children of, what it's called, Sisyphus? Yes. And what is the story? Imagine people on the task of nation building, going up to the mountain, taking the stones up with you, and somewhere when you're near the apex of the hill, the stone fall down again. So you have to go back over. We have taken the country so far forward. We want the citizens of the country never go backwards from whence we came. Forward on to progress and prosperity. Forward on with the future. And that is what Team Unity will deliver. A future of hope. Like the lady singer, what's her name? Deposoir. She carries another surname. What is it? Garden. Sir, we can see clearly now. The rain is gone. You can see clearly now from whence the country has traveled over the last 4+ years. See clearly now. And let's keep the momentum forward. I want to make the point because it goes to the ethos of the government. It links so well in the theme of economic governance. It links so well in the philosophy of the Team Unity administration. It has always been about bringing people together. Whatever their political agenda, whatever their beliefs, recognizing fundamentally as good citizens and residents, we want the best for St. Kitts and Nevis. So we acknowledge that the government alone, civil society alone, industry alone will not be able to deliver the stronger, safer, and better economy that St. Kitts and Nevis needs to preserve, to protect, and to expand upon. That is why these consultations are important, because they allow us to reinforce our commitment to work together. So we hail the government officers, the civil society, our diplomatic allies, and our regional and international partners and advisors. That is why we have continued consultations, even after we had the Growth Forum series, which we inaugurated last year, coming out of consultations with the Chamber. Now today we meet ahead of our budget estimates committee meetings, where we will deliberate on how to utilize the financial resources we have at our disposal for the upcoming fiscal year 2020 and beyond. Your Team Unity administration will forever remain focused on delivering the stronger, safer, and better future for all the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. By working together for the last 4 years, we have built a strong economic foundation. Not perfect, still need to do more. The Financial Secretary has advised me that our economy is projected to record a robust growth of 3.7% for 2019. And I took a bit of note because when the governor spoke, he said the OECS would record a growth rate of 3.3 for 2019. So we would become above average. And if it is, as it should be, a conservative figure, and things get more exciting, more money in the economy, the Chamber's management and leaders get excited about nation building and begin to build more. TDC gets its housing project at George started. Farron gets another piece of land and he does something more. We can expect even greater multiplier effect and further outstanding growth. But examine where we are, because we are not a nation on our own. Look at what is happening in the rest of the world. Look to the fact that in Europe, Germany, the giant of the economies, is having challenges. Look to the fact that China, once the leader of economic growth and still is a major determiner. A country that will significantly determine, the outcome of world growth. Once had GDP figures, economic growth figures rather, in double digits, now down at 6, and portending to get lower. While that is happening, someplace in the world, a small country, perhaps the smallest country, the smallest democratic country, is showing an improvement in its economic growth statistic. That is important. Yes, kudos. And for the 5th year in a row, we are having economic growth. Sometimes when things are happening too often, we take them for granted. It's like water. Until water gone, nobody misses. Nobody misses it. We take it for granted. Until electricity goes, nobody misses. We don't even think about these things. Because when we flick the button, we expect that there shall be lights. And when we turn it up, we expect that there will be water. There is something in the Bible which reminds us not to take these things for granted. And so this is where we are at. Doing relatively well, with still a substantial journey to cover, but doing extremely well as the smallest democratic country in the world. The economic growth for 2019, I am advised, will be driven by construction services, the distributive trade, tourism, transportation and communication, financial services, and government, of course, action. I'm advised the transport, storage, and communication sector contributes about 15% of our GDP, and that sector will grow by 5.3% in 2019. Briefly turning to the fiscal operations of our government, the preliminary data indicate that for the first 8 months of the year, our government has achieved a recurrent account surplus, and overall surplus, and a primary surplus. These 3 indicators are the main indicators that are used globally to evaluate the performance of the country. And in each of them, for the 5th year in a row, St. Kitts and Nevis is in surplus. Put your hands together for all the civil servants and the economic players who have created these opportunities for us. And Mr. Gift would remind me that I should say thank you to those in the business sector, because for the year so far, we are well ahead of our target in corporation tax. So I want to give Farron Lawrence and the Chamber a round of applause for paying on time. That is an important part, too, of the economic good governance agenda, that those who are making money and are liable for taxes, they must pay their taxes on time. But that is for the budget debate. I want to indicate that for the period so far, I'm advised by the Financial Secretary that our surpluses on the overall and primary balances accounts are 40% and 35% higher than they were at this time last year. So we are not doing badly. And it was for that reason that we were able to announce way in advance that you will be getting, for the 4th year in a row, a double salary. Thanks for your hard work. The fiscal prudence and progress are in stark contrast to what they were some 5+ years ago, when our country went to the IMF and borrowed in the region of $225 million. Some people forget. Things were so bad in our country that we went to the IMF for the first time in our history as an independent nation, and we had to borrow $225 million approximately to pay civil servants, to keep the hospital open, 225 million to finance the operation of the government. Some people, of course, would want to wipe that out of the history, but it's a history from which we can learn. And that is why when we came as an act of discipline on our own selves, we say we will never, never under Team Unity administration take our country a begging to the IMF in the manner in which we were subjected in 2010 and 2011. Our policy must be that we have confidence in our own ability to do the right thing by the economy and to write in terms of our own fiscal management. Some will want us to believe that before 2015, things were so good. You know what we did when we came in, before I get off the IMF? We paid $117 million that was left due to the IMF. We paid it off in a short interval, free the country of that obligation. We did that because we had confidence in our ability to manage St. Kitts and Nevis, to assert fiscal prudence where it was required. That then tells us that Team Unity will never walk that journey again. In 2010, we had negative growth of 3.8%, according to the IMF document number 14/138 or 138/14. That's what they said. Negative growth. We're talking 5 years consistently of growth moving in the right direction. Positive, positive, positive. 5 years before us, negative in 2010, negative in 2011, negative in 2012. And when you average the range over the last 5 years preceding us, you get something little less than 1% growth. But those who have convenient memory would want to believe that the economy was just started in 2014 or 2013. Well, what happened to 2010? What happened to 2011? What happened to 2012? Because, again, from whence we came would tell us how far we would have moved. That is a significant difference. And most importantly, we are pleased because there was a time when we were a pariah country with the highest per capita debt to GDP in the world. We were more akin to a failed state. That is where we were. Today, as we stand and as you heard before me, St. Kitts and Nevis has become the first independent country in the ECCB sub-region or the OECS sub-region to achieve an international benchmark of a debt to GDP ratio of 60% or lower. Put your hands together for fiscal management. First, that is where we are at. I want to say that the economic drivers, some of them are well known. I've made reference to them. But I want to single out our performance in the area of tourism. For the year 2018, cruise passenger arrivals increased by about 7% to 1,142,080 visitors, while stayover visits increased by 5.7% to 125,561 visitors. For all the while, we've been investing in cruise tourism. We became a marquee port, was it 2017, Honorable Minister? 2017, when we achieved the million mark in terms of visitor arrivals. And every year after that, we are hoping to maintain that. Let's put our hands together for the workers in the Ministry of Tourism and Tourism Department and the private sector actors all involved in tourism for the success of this particular area of our economic life. The financial services sector contributes about 12% of GDP. I am advised for 2019 we shall achieve a growth of around 3%, hinge on increased demand for financial services by business enterprises and households. The construction activity continues to contribute significantly to the overall growth of the economy, contributing an average of about 18% to GDP. For 2019, we are expecting a growth, an additional growth of about 4% in this sector. This is not surprising, having regard to the surge in construction activity in both public and private sector. Pursuing our public sector investment has contributed to sustain economic growth and development here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It has also delivered real jobs and opportunities, especially for our young people. The investments, you know them well, the upgrade of the Island Main Road, the rehabilitation of the Old Road Bay, the construction of the second cruise pier, and we could go on and on. These activities are also being complemented by private sector investments and the completion of ongoing work on major hotel projects in St. Kitts and Nevis. Over the last 4 years, we have presided over the construction and completion of several hotel properties. Some had a start, sometimes a false start in the period before us. But we were happy with the completion of the Park Hyatt Hotel that delivered a further 120 rooms to our hotel stock. Koi Resort, when open, will deliver, I'm advised, about another 110 rooms. King's Pavilion opened, supplying 18 rooms. And the Tilloff Hotel property and residences, I'm advised, will deliver 168 rooms to the hotel stock. Ramada has about completed or is nearing completion of phase 1, and that shall deliver over 300 rooms to the hotel stock. So our base in terms of hotel rooms is getting to that significant level where we could make more demands on airlines and get better arrangements for St. Kitts and Nevis. Is this so, Mrs. Brown, Raquel? Could you say loud because you tell me so? Yes, I recall correctly. Thank you. So in the short period, we are seeing just over 700 additional rooms for St. Kitts alone. And several other properties are under construction on the island of Nevis. Ramada was so excited about their first phase that they have committed to start phase 2 in the new year. And they have planned to supply a further 300 rooms. There's a lot of work to be done over the next couple of years. We have Seaview Garden Hotel in West Bastere. They promise that by next year, they will deliver phase 1 with 146 rooms and 13 commercial units. Hillsborough Suites is making steady progress. And last night, Dr. Ballantyne told me he will deliver 55 suites in phase 1. Era Development, too, is making steady progress. And the Royal St. Kitts Hotel and Casino, it's delivering on its Cove high-end residences following the success of the commercial plaza right here in the Frigate Bay area. And 2 weeks ago, the principals of St. Kitts Castle took me on a tour to show me the adjoining land, and which they will begin before year-end, phase 2 of their residential project here in St. Kitts. We can therefore look to the future with hope and faith. The performance of the economy can be assessed also by the growth in new businesses that are operating in the Federation. The Office of the Financial Secretary has advised that between January to September 2019, 489 applications for new businesses were favorably processed by that ministry. 489 new businesses applied for permission to get started in our country. Something good is happening in our country. And the records from the Inland Revenue Department would indicate that we have had a breakthrough in terms of the number of businesses that have applied for licenses, etc. The highest record of new businesses, well, at least in terms of licenses issued, has occurred over the last 4 years. The records and the stats speak for themselves. Everyone is entitled to his or her opinion, but they are not entitled to the facts. The facts are independent and they stand the test of time. So today we come to have a conversation about the digital economy, how important that is to keep St. Kitts and Nevis moving forward, making tremendous progress in this regard. We have heard from the private sector how important this area of economic life, socioeconomic life will be. We have an expert panel and experienced representatives from various entities who have come forward today to tell us how we can seize the opportunities for modernization of St. Kitts and Nevis, for greater efficiency and effectiveness by, of course, embracing the digital economy. I would leave that to the illustrious panelists to make the presentation in this particular area, including the development of the fintech and what that means for our own EC dollar, what that means for how we are going to transact business in St. Kitts and Nevis and in the currency union, what that means in terms of the view that the governor has that we must become a cashless society. Significant things are happening, and we therefore want to stay ahead of that particular agenda. I want to commend the panelists who are here to lead in this regard and have made my work lighter. Roger Hennis, we have the governor of the bank, Mr. Timothy Antwine and his staff. We have a famous lady from the cable, Patricia Walters. We welcome her. We have from Flo David Lake. We have Alex Strawn, I'm told a new talent that has arisen in St. Kitts and Nevis. Let's give them all a special round of applause. And from the government, the Attorney General and Ophelia Blanchard would lead. We do not pursue a digital economy and technological innovation because we are driven by a particular ideology or because it is now fashionable. We do so because we see the real potential and job growth that can come from it, especially for our young people. The new technology can help us play a leading role in the region and beyond. New employment opportunities will open up in commerce, in real estate, in banking, and other areas of the financial sector, cybersecurity, and someone mentioned that earlier, merchandising. The world which we now know will change so dramatically before our very eyes. It would mean that our people here could be contributing to international companies in New York, in London, in Hong Kong, and you don't have to leave the Federation. As we master the digital potential in all spheres of society, a new spirit of entrepreneurship would be unleashed in our nation, where people could sell their services, their products, and their produce to previously unattainable markets. the digital economy is how we prepare our people for the jobs of the future. And it therefore will make significant demands on how we teach and how people learn. And so we have to revisit our curriculum in our school. Thankfully, we are somewhat ahead of that, in that we have a project with the CDB, $30 million to be invested in technical and vocational education and training. I would leave it to the Minister of Technology to tell you more about what we on the part side of the government have been doing over the last 4 years to create the enabling environment for developing such a digital economy. Truth be told, we have made good progress in upgrading IT infrastructure and other assets and introduced new e-government services across various institutions of the government, including the Ministry of Health, thanks to some technology support from the government of Taiwan, the Ministry of Justice Legal Affairs, the Ministry of National Security, the CBI program, all have bought into the technology, and we are seeing the results. Even our Inland Revenue Department, our Customs and Excise are doing more transactions, by and large, by way of the digital platform. Just recently, we launched a new system of data collection and reporting for our national security. And we want, on that note, to give a round of applause to the police officers and all who are involved in the national security for the season of peace which we have been experiencing since March this year. Because all we are planning to do and all the gains that we have made could be lost if there is no peace. We have to have peace in the land. And we have come afar in terms of that. The businesses can open longer. The churches can do their hallelujah praises for longer period of time too. Our children can walk through their alleyways and byways back to our homes because there's a new season of peace. And this government is prepared to do all that we can to sustain it with our limited manpower and human power in general. We can't afford to lose our young people in particular, with all of their potential to be creative, with all of their talents. We can't lose them to crime and murder, and we will not. And whatever interventions we will make with the coalition of the willing people in society who see the challenge, but beyond the challenge are prepared to make a contribution to turn the tide of lawlessness which had too long bedeviled St. Kitts and Nevis and Caribbean society. So I thank the pastors who have come forward. I thank the business people. I thank the guidance counselors who have come forward to be part of what we call the initial engagement team that have reached out to some of the young men and young women, vulnerable as they may have been, challenging as their particular life circumstances may have been, to say to them, choose peace. Choose peace. Choose life over certain death. Choose a new legitimate career. And some say the government will pay them. Pay them for what? This government not ashamed or afraid to say what we will do. We will go the full 10 yards to maintain peace and security in St. Kitts and Nevis and to make the country I love the safest country in the world. We will go the full 10 yards. Let it be clear. And if those who are vulnerable, those who are obstructing the peace and progress say we are willing to make a change, and if the business community not yet willing to put an outreaching hand, the government will. If they work just like every other citizen and resident who work and their work is certified to have been well accomplished, we will pay them. That is our duty. So we are not afraid to say that we will do that. We will pay them for doing the right thing. And for our country, safety must come first. Indeed, when I was a first-year university student taking politics, they told me, and they may be well now wrong with all the technology that is happening, but they told me the most fundamental duty of the government is to maintain law and order. When you lose that, there's no need for any government. We see that happen in Iraq, in Libya, in parts of Nigeria, where the statal apparatus fail to provide safety and security. Then there's no need for the government. You're back in the land of the wild, wild west, and whoever controls the arms, whoever controls it, will dictate what is happening in our society. And then our police officers, they have too many cases to pursue and limited manpower. And our DPP, who is here, he gets overwhelmed. Especially now we don't have the criminal assizes. It's go every day, go like ever-ready battery. The criminal justice system, we need pause. And thankfully, since March until now, we have not had one gang-related homicide in St. Kitts and Nevis. I commend all the parents who have been talking to their children, their wayward children even, the aunts, the friends who are saying, if you do not change from that life, you will have no future. Your children will have no future, and our country will have no future. That is what has been at stake. And while it is not yet perfect, it is a work in progress. We are seeing the result. When they brought home some 36, and not seeing guns of their own volition, it's 36 guns less available to do mayhem and to kill and to hurt and to injure, not just the criminals but the innocent. And I'm not going to carry the death of anyone on my conscience. And my government will not. We will do all that we can to preserve the peace and prosperity of our country. So I want to end on that diversion, because critical to everything is peace. If there is no peace, there can be no economic activity, except it is run by the mob. If there is no peace, the institutions in which for all of our life, post-emancipation, we have invested in, like our education, like our health facilities, all of them are undermined. That is how it is. When you hear that they have penetrated even in our primary schools, use our young children to peddle and to trade in their arms, we know that something urgently had to be done. And you can't wait. All you know, whatever you have done before, they have not brought the results. All you know that you brought in the RSS, and it has not brought the results. All you know, you invested in CCTV, and it has not yet brought the result. It has helped, yes. All you know, you have reformed the criminal justice system and make way for a judge to attend exclusively to criminal cases, because justice must be swift, and it still did not bring the breakthrough. All you know, you have brought in the experts from the British government to help you reform a criminal justice system. And the results are not yet there. And time is not on our side. And it is in this context that we boldly say that we will do all in our power to preserve the peace. And men and women of goodwill must support peace over war. And I am happy to say that we are going to make progress. We will continue to revisit everything. Nothing is sacred. We started with some good numbers on the ease of business, and over time things shifted. But we have some good indicators, and at least 3 of the indicators for ease of doing business, St. Kitts and Nevis tops many of the countries in the world. Cross-border transactions as customs and excise at work, we are among the best in the world, not just in the Caribbean. There are some 3 indicators. Give me another one, Financial Secretary. You must know these things. You don't know when they will come up. Give me another one, Sylvia. But at least 3 of them, we have led the way. What we need now to do is to replicate that success that customs has brought, that gift has brought to inland revenue in terms of the ease of paying taxes around all the other areas. And the bright lawyers in the Bar Association must help. They tell us that in cases of insolvency, we have one of the worst records. Well, we know that. Look how long it took us to brought relief for the Bank of Commerce. And usually some lawyer could help us. But lawyers get paid by the time. So we are inviting all really. And that is just an act of humor, because we have to smile at ourselves. We are inviting all, the Chamber, the Bar Association, and everyone to come help us. Let us sit together and examine the issues which challenge us and find a solution to them. Thank you very much for coming. It's been good to have you here, and I want you to redouble your commitment to nation building. At the end of the day, that is all we ask. May God bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and may God bless this country that we all love. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. Though it may not appear on your program, I just want to invite you now for a 15-minute break, which would bring us back here at, we'll give you until 20 minutes past 11. There's refreshment on the outside. So 15 minutes break, and then we'll resume. Thank you very much.
1.3 million people and to one of the